NERDSoul.
Hey, Daggers, what's going on? This is Solar Grey, the Cinematic Sorcerer, coming at you from Bono's Pizzeria in beautiful downtown Long Beach, Ocean Boulevard, as a matter of fact, which is kind of funny because whenever you go into a city that has a beach like Venice, Santa Monica, Leo Carrillo, there's always an Ocean Boulevard. It makes you wonder, like, are they all connected? And some people are like, yeah, if it's the same ocean. But honestly, it's not. That's really like the Pacific Coast Highway, which locals call PCH. But for those people that like driving Route 66 and all that stuff, there's no water there. But there's water here in the fountain right behind you guys. And if you guys are thirsty, the drinks are still bottomless, at least the soft ones. If you guys want the beer and the wine, that's all on you. Now, if you're wondering why it sounds like I'm doing a stand-up comedy routine, it's because I am stuck with a whole bunch of sleep deprivation. But since I am here with the microphone in hands, I want to welcome you guys to the first Decker Day that we are having with a whole bunch of gamers, a day of fun and games for the family, for the people that want families, for the people that came from families, for the people that know the definition of family. And I don't just mean the dictionary definition, because your bloodline are the people that you're born with, and the family are the people that you choose to pay back when they loan you money. So, I want to introduce our panel because I want to welcome you guys to the live edition of the Dark Side of the Room. Now, this is the show where we talk about nerd culture and what it's like to be an outsider, even outsiders around nerds, along with, I would say gaming theory, but I don't teach anything about espionage or doing stuff that really alienate your friends. But we're talking about what it means to be a gamer. How do we play games? Easy ways to learn, easy accessibilities, and how to navigate these realms if you happen to come from a little place. Now, around here, I tell people all the time, do not let people tell you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth. That means race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, neurodivergency, or your budget. And I put that one in specifically because I ain't never seen a housing project more than 2 miles away from a trailer park. Because broke is broke, all right? But first off, I want to introduce my fantastic panel who decided to come down here and support the event. On my first left, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, a great entertainer, a great humanitarian, and one of my very good friends for years. You guys can see us practically every Sunday, sometime between noon and 2, talking about the stuff that he covers on him, and I like to introduce Mr. Michael Young.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Why, thank you. Yes, thank you. NERD, SOUL, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. We do hip hop and geek. We have a pretty good time. And Solar and I usually talk about Evil or Star Trek or something like that.
Evil's a TV show, by the way. We don't talk about the anthropomorphic concept of the opposite of good. We leave that for our meetings on Tuesday nights down by the docks. Yeah, so yeah, that's when we talk about unionization and the power of the proletariat and all that stuff. But that's for Tuesday night, down by the docks, Pier 18, 7:30. And right next to him, the Stan Lee of 133 Comics, all right? The idea man, the one who says, you know what? I like your style. Let me give you a comic book. If you can do your stuff on time, because I ain't going to be like the Boondocks, Mr. Jason Reeves.
Hey. How y'all doing?
Go ahead and say something. No, your mic works.
Oh, yeah. My mic works. We publish comics. We are 133art.com is the hub. We are at 133art Publishing or at 133art on every social media. And we make black-centered media and comics. So yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome. Now, if you guys have been here all day, you have noticed that we got a couple of tables that are like, hey, what's this stuff? They look like good art displays. But what's that over there? It's all new and wrapped in plastic. And, oh, that looks fun. Really quick, shut up and take my money. And I want to introduce a really good friend of mine, a friend to the channel, a friend to Back in the Deck. As a whole, a member of the community, especially in Bellflower, California. You guys know him as that guy that's just been sitting at the table all day. I know him as Charles, the owner and operator of Guildhouse Games. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Oh, you can slide the whole thing around. If it falls, it's just funny.
I'm new. I'm not used to being on mic.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing. All right. And finally, all right. No offense, guys, but the one guest that I am super over the moon to get here today.
Oh, this is what he does. Okay.
You know, I talk a lot about racial equality or gender issues or a lot of stuff, especially within the nerd sphere. And everybody who knows looking at me, I'm a neurodivergent, out of my mind, big black dude. But one thing I always try and make room for is the perspective of a woman. I don't think women's perspectives are really shined within the nerd culture and the geek space. So this is why I'm happy not just to have a woman, not just to have a black woman, but to have an educated black woman who is a working journalist. Oh my God, her publications, I would say are endless. It's just my notebook is over there at a different table, so I can't exactly give you guys her pedigree, but let me tell you, it is hardcore. Miss Marqueeda LaStar, thank you for being here. Tell the people about yourself.
Oh my God. I've been on a lot of panels, but that's like the best intro I've ever gotten in my life. Yeah, so I do journalism and I also create content of my own, but my biggest thing is just trying to reveal the industry, the ins and outs, and gain access to people who normally don't get it. So I'm a big fan of indie anything. And so I'm found anywhere online at LaStar Got Next. That's where you can find me. Uh-oh, it's humming.
No, you good.
Oh, okay. No.
It's a little like Will.
No, you're good.
All right, there we go. Ooh, yeah. I think I turned this mic down a little bit because I didn't want to outshine you. Hey, you guys in the back there, can you hear me? All right, you guys can hear me. All right, who can't hear me over there? Okay, well, that's easy. That's not a problem. I got you. All right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We do this all the time.
Now, this is the first time that Mike and I have actually done a panel live, so he's not actually seen how much of a goofball I actually am in real life.
I think you're right on that one, though.
It is.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Keep talking.
Someone keep talking.
Hello. 1 2 1 2. That's
You're
right.
a master at this, Michael. Don't be shy.
Although you don't got to be that close with the mic. I mean, this is a family-friendly show. So, so I wanted to get everybody together And there's a lot of stuff we talk about on the dark side of the room. Now, normally, I am giving lectures. Things like it's just a game. Why are we here? What is it like to be a gamer? What's it like to be in spaces and all that other stuff? But today, I wanted to talk with people that aren't me about the comic space, the publishing space, the gaming space, and all those other spaces where, let's be real, most of these things started in middle America in the 1960s and 70s. And things have changed since then. So, when my panel came up to me today, they were like, okay, what are we going to talk about? What is the whole thing? So, the first thing, I want to pose a little bit of a question to each member of the panel, all right? Just give them a couple of minutes to tell a little bit about their story in a sense of what made them uncomfortable when they first came in, be it when they were 9, 10, 11 years old, that kind of thing. The first time they noticed the difference between their regular life and the nerd space. All right, so let's open it up to you, Charles, because I know I met you, and I know that you have a long history with Warhammer 40K, which in Southern California doesn't exactly have the cleanest reputation. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Just my history of Warhammer. This right now. We need to share this one.
Your history with Warhammer. Your history with Warhammer. What it was like when you first went in, and were you welcome? Were you not welcome? Like, how comfortable did you feel being in that space before you started working at the store?
Ooh. That's a difficult one for me. I was kind of invited by a cousin of mine around the age of 15, and I lived in like the middle of nowhere. So there wasn't really a huge Warhammer community for me to kind of break into, and it was also heavily Hispanic area, so thankfully I didn't really feel too excluded. So I actually have kind of I haven't been too excluded in most areas, which that's as far as my ethnicity is concerned in that one.
Okay. All right. Well, very cool. Now, Jason, you come from, well, a lot of people have told me, well, you're always complaining about comics. You're always complaining about what's out there, what's not out there. If you don't like it so much, why don't you go write your own book? And I'm like, because Marvel, well, I'm not going to say they don't answer the door and DC don't answer the door when I go knocking. It's just the security that shows up instead of the A&R person. So being someone who went out there and actually started doing their own thing, tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they turn security on you, so then you gotta build your own clubhouse and not let them in. No, I guess to answer the question, the first thing that kind of made me feel uncomfortable in the comic space or comic industry space was just not enough of people like me doing the thing. And then even finding out that certain illustrators, because that's my first skill set, being an illustrator, that certain illustrators were black, but you never saw their faces, right? You didn't know that illustrator of your favorite book was a black guy. And that would have been so helpful as a young person trying to break into the industry. And then because there's certain gatekeeping going on in the industry, even still now. I mean, it's a little bit more open now, but even now, there's certain gatekeeping in the sense, not necessarily malicious, even though there are malicious forms of it. There's a form where I have more empathy for a person that looks like me or that comes from the same background as me, so I don't even look at other candidates for a certain job.
Kind of like an unconscious bias.
Correct.
Okay.
That still exists, that's still pervasive in the industry. And to get around that, when I was coming up, I created 133 Art. I was like, okay, I can't get into the industry traditionally or the way that they say that I should, you know. I can't really network in the way that people are telling me in interviews and in videos that I should network. I'm not gonna go to the club or the bar or whatever. I don't even drink that much after the convention, or I can't get into that particular space to meet that particular editor. And I'll just do it myself. I'm creative. I've always been a storyteller. I've always been an artist. So I have most of the tools. Why not make my own?
Okay. Miss LaStar. Some of your experiences within the publishing spaces, which means creative spaces and business spaces, have you felt some of the same things or some of the things perhaps in a different flavor?
Okay. When you first asked your question, I thought you were like asking me like to give you like my nerd coming out story. I was like,
Which, don't get me wrong, I would love to hear it. I mean, you know.
I don't have one. It's much like my queer story. I just was. Never big on coming out.
Yes, my queer coming out, or my nerd coming out story was I opened the door and I walked out of the bathroom and I said, wow, I think I want spandex. You know.
An understandable urge, you know, it happens to us all. Some we find out it's like our superpower and we look great in it, and others are like, no, this isn't for me. But
can you be a nerd if you don't want spandex stuff?
I mean, you can want it, but you can understand it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So I understand where he's coming from. I thought I was artsy. And then somebody was like, nah, you a nerd. So I was like the alternative, like artsy chick, and then they're like, no, you a whole nerd. I was like, oh, okay. Let me go find my nerd tribes. I wasn't discouraged. I don't know. I'm pretty confident. I like being weird. I think we all go through that. I'm different, starting in like, you know, in school, you know, K through 12. And then eventually, you just get to this point where you're like, if I can't let people sit, if they won't let me sit with them, I'm going to find the people who will let me sit with them, and then I'm going to start building things that will make other people come sit at my table. And so I've always brought that attitude with much of everything I do. I believe I should be in this room. I have the qualifications, I have the interest, I have the passion. If I don't have it, I acquire it. And I'm happy to share with others how to go about that. So that's how I often come through things, and that helps me get through a lot of doors that I think others don't get through. Because I'm big for advocating. I'm very anti-bully. I think that's where it started off for, because you being different, that's usually your first experience is having to deal with bullies.
So true.
And then I'm the kind of person like, well, we'll square up. I might not win, but we're going to at least square up. And what you find out with bullies real quick is that they don't like to square up. Even if they end up winning at the end of the day, they don't want to actually fight you. And so if the world is bullies and they like to prey on the people who are weak or the people who will crumple or give in, I feel like I can't be that person. Know that I gotta fight. So when I do get in rooms and I'm the only person who looks or thinks or has the particular background I have a lot of boxes I could check off if I went through all of them. I stick out in a lot of different ways, and I've just learned to own that and say that is who I am, and it's behind the reason why I'm confident. I'm big on embracing our differences as opposed to running away from them. Yes. And it's a big superpower for me. And so I'm like, love your weird. It's really a superpower, and it's going to make, at the end of the day, it's the weirdos who are like innovating and forming those new trends when they find the courage just to be who they are and say, hey, I know I've got something here, let me run with it. And that gets you really far with people who may have underestimated you when you first walked through the door because you aren't what they were expecting.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. Mark Zuckerberg is like the pinnacle of normalcy, you know?
Right. But you can use it to your advantage. You underestimating me or giving into some stereotype about me that you concocted in your head, or you've been indoctrinated to, because that is a thing in our society.
True.
Is your weakness, not mine.
Okay.
I'm going to take full advantage of it. And then when I come up on top or I do this thing that you weren't expecting me to be able to do for no other reason than some superficial thing that you thought in your head, well, that's how you lose out, you miss out. And I'm on to the next thing. So I definitely encounter those type of things, but that's my whole attitude and mantra towards it.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, see, I had to open with the uncomfortable question.
Oh, okay.
Because the major part of today's day is I wanted to show the world, our people, their people, the people who love rolling math rocks, the people who love creating stories, even the ones that sit down at their typewriter and beat their hands bloody, going all work and no play, make Jack a doughboy, and want to swing an axe at Shelley Long. Or was it, or Shelley Duvall, sorry. That Shelley Long is my thing. I was never a big fan of Cheers. But to show the people, look, we're here. Everybody's here. And within the nerd spaces over the past lifetime of mine, I have noticed that there are a lot of levels of gatekeeping. And when I first started, I gave sort of not my geek coming out party, but my quest to learn Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s. And I had to travel on public transportation for 6.5 hours.
Okay.
I wound up in a sundown town. And once I was there, most people don't know that Burbank, California was a sundown town until the early 2000s. And once I was there, I was treated not like a second-class citizen, but like a sentient piece of garbage, essentially. Now, the best part about magic, and the magic that I practice, is that I'm going to be here a very long time. There's no guarantee that my detractors will be. So that store isn't here anymore, through no actions of my own, and it just took a dip in the economy and a couple of earthquakes. Like I said, through no actions of my own. Okay, I wasn't strong enough then. Not that I'm not strong enough now, but costs and responsibilities, and my Uncle Benjamin coming out telling me about that stuff. But over the past 30 years since I first started doing this stuff, actually I started in '87. So since I started doing the gaming stuff, I've noticed different cities, different towns, places all over the country. And as the 21st century has gone about, and the internet, my favorite invention since the prophylactic, has taken its prominence throughout American and global society, that a lot more diversity and willingness to diversity is more prevalent. That's what I've noticed. I would, when we talked about the panel, I said I wanted to talk about how we've noticed how things have gotten better. I ain't gonna say good. All right, I'm not gonna say good, but I see a lot of people that look like me, that are like 12, 13, or 14, that play D&D or paint miniatures or do model trains or love comic books, getting, I would say, a fraction of the swirlies that we grew up with. They spend a lot less time in their lockers than we used to. And I like how you say you stand up to bullies because they don't like throwing down. When I was coming up, if I won the throwdown, I'd be getting jumped the next day. And there's a lot less of that nowadays within the geek sphere and my experiences. So I wanted to know if it's been like that with you guys. Have you guys noticed a more diverse and opening and welcoming space for nerds, at least since 2003? I can say since 2003, just the past 20 years. We'll start with you, Jason.
Why?
Because I'm that kind of teacher.
You can sense that
I'm like, wow, everybody's sitting up straight except for that one guy that's like, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me.
I was comfortable. No, I do think it's better for our spaces. I'm not super impressed with the amount of diversity, but I am impressed that we can build our own spaces and then come together there. I love that about it. Like, I love that I can meet people like Mike and Marqueeda, and we can come together and problem solve or create, you know, or bring more things to the table. I think that is the most impressive part about it for me. Like, meeting Solar and being like, he's like, yo, come into the game space, learn this thing. You like this thing? Let's figure this thing out. More so than...
No, I'm going to be riding you about that 3D printer, right?
Oh, man, here it is. See, there it is. More so than the diversity. I still think that needs work, because there's a sort of surface diversity where they're putting you in the creative spot, but we need administrative diversity. We need producing diversity. And I think check writing diversity more so. But the internet is wonderful. Technology is amazing. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without the internet, without technology, without our advances. So I don't want to sound super dour.
Well, I don't know, but we've got Dwayne McDuffie, and you know, before I throw it over to Nerds,
one man can't do everything.
I know.
Dwayne's no longer
And
here. Also,
before I throw it to Mike, who was making all the noises that I love seeing elder black women make in church, I'm gonna throw it over to Mr. Mendez real quick, because this is the man that's on the ground 7 days a week. So, running a successful game store for 7 years now.
8.
8 years
Yeah,
now.
Just got 8.
Yeah, seriously, guys, that is an applaud thing. If you guys are in these spaces, it's like, yeah, I remember that game store. You remember? Because, you know, it's a furniture store now. It's a Subway, you know, that kind of thing. So, so what have you seen on the ground with the customers that come through your store, the people that talk to you online, the mail order, that kind of thing? Since you are in it, like you are knee deep in the trenches in ways that we only complain about, what has been your experience and observation?
As far as like diversity coming in, or the way people are treated?
Both. Both, yeah. And get a little closer to the mic.
No. Generally it's pretty positive. I do actively try to foster a more positive atmosphere in my store. You have to police the negativity and encourage the positivity a lot, and that really just creates a much more inviting space for everyone, no matter what the background is. You know, judge people by what they do and what they say, not, you know, where they come from, what they look like.
Now, when you say police the negativity, do you mean like people being upset that the game didn't turn out the way that they wanted to, or people saying, ew, girls have cooties, we don't want them at our table, kind of thing?
A bit of both. Anytime it's something negative, where it's like, you know, so-and-so's done this, or this business is doing this practice.
They say cooties for real?
Cooties, no. Basically, I do try to, like, you know, don't tell me what's wrong or what's making you mad. Tell me what you like about that thing, or that person, or the game. You know, don't worry about what went wrong, worry about what went right. If you're trying to worry about what went wrong, figure out how to fix it.
Okay.
You know, be more positive, because complaining about something that you don't like doesn't do anything but make you more upset.
But Twitter. But Twitter.
So complaining about things you don't like makes you more upset and makes the people who own those distributions more rich.
But Facebook, yo.
They do make a lot of money off negativity.
You know, oh man, but I thought that was what I was supposed to be doing, because, you know, my algorithm has me as a hate monster, because I hate I hate that cinematography, and I hate that CGI, and I hate that writing, and I hate it. It's all I am programmed to do. Now, so now that I've heard from, you know, the people that are being very polite, and I love that you guys are being polite and diplomatic, I'm gonna hand it over to my boy, because he can't help but be real. He's like, I don't know, I just no. So I'm gonna just do this and maybe get myself a drink.
This ought to be good.
Okay. All right, on the representation thing, on one hand, we do have more people in the front. Like we talk about Star Trek Discovery. You have Michael Burnham, and this is one thing that I love. Michael Burnham, she's doing a thing, kicking it, you know, being a captain and, you know, solving mysteries and crimes and saving people and stuff, and everything's fine.
Mysteries and crimes.
Mysteries and crimes. and everything seems to be fine.
All she needs to do is paint that ship green with a little purple stripe down the side to get a dog, right?
Yeah. So, and then you have all of these people, Adira, Tall. You have the doctor that used to get on my nerve. Hugh, was it Hugh? The guy that used to get on my nerves, but he's okay now. Him and Stamets. Yeah, Stamets. And so you have those things, not only as representation, but with a big budget behind it, which is something that we usually don't get. Black Panther, another one, big budget behind it, and it's like, oh, yeah, see, $1 billion. We told y'all, like, we told you all this time. Or
I think it's 2 now.
Yeah, yeah. So then you have even smaller shows like Euphoria that do bring, even though I think that's the craziest high school in the world, but you know, you have smaller properties like that, things like Evil, where
I went to Hollywood High School, bro. If that show was set in the 90s, they just need a little more dancing in the hallways.
So you have this representation in the front, which is cool, but then sometimes I wonder how meaningful it is.
Okay.
And that's kind of when you get to the point of like meaningful representation. Like, oh, okay, cool. We have some Latin people at the front of this show. We have LGBTQIA plus in front of this show. But then it's like, are they just playing out stereotypes? Or are they there just to be seen and kind of sidelined and still not allowed to be heroes or be protagonists at all, you know, to kind of like drive the story. Even a show that just ended, Motherland Fort Salem, which is like a small show, but it was actually kind of cool where you have these witches that are like sort of incorporated into the army, and then you have this whole beef with like I
think
the
they're a
terrorist
division of the military.
Well, yeah, are.
They're their own division.
But doesn't the government still kind of control them, sort of?
Well, when you're a division of the military,
Well, yeah.
that's how that works.
Well, sorry.
I'm just saying that they're like,
yeah.
it's like the Air Force and
Yeah.
the Navy, and then you got the witches. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Which force?
Yeah,
They're
they're a whole division of military that's witches. That's their weapon.
Oh, I thought you'd seen it before. But anyway,
Okay.
What was
like
the show
it's
called
matriarchal. Motherland Fort Salem. It's really cool. It's really good show.
good one.
And it's a matriarchal
It's in
show.
Africa?
No, it's wrong motherland. But
Bombay.
we do without spoiling anything. There is a strong tie to Africa, but you find that out
Later.
Yeah. But you have a strong matriarchal situation where in the families, in the military, in the government, women are at the forefront and they're like in charge and doing things. And I really like it because not only are women in charge and running things, but it's meaningful. They don't seem like to be there sort of as a foil. Now, of course, I'm not a woman, haven't grown up as a woman, but it seems like, hey, there's good women, there's bad women, there's women that are like spies and stuff. Women, you know, so they're able to be everything instead of
People?
yeah, you know, regular people. But then also they don't play it in a way where I guess the warlocks or the male witches are somehow like corny and whack. They just allow like the guys to be good guys and bad guys and the girls to be and this is just saying girls as a quick, I know they're women or growing up or, well, some of them are. But anyway, they're able to be everybody. They're able to be good, bad, change the good, change the bad. You know, they're able to be, three-dimensional
They're
people. You know,
fully developed
fully
characters.
developable characters.
That's what he's trying to get
And
at.
that's what I mean by meaningful. Like a lot of shows, you don't get that. It's like, oh, so this person is just bad. And we never try to understand.
They use more
But-
as like a device
Yeah.
to move the story forward, or they're a sidekick, or they're comedy relief or
Yeah,
something
the
like
funny
that.
friend.
And you want, yeah, exactly. You want to know more about that. And to what you're saying, and I love that we're using representation as opposed to diversity, because that's what it's really about.
Yeah.
I think meaningful is important, because if it's superficial, it's not doing the work. It's not doing what we want representation. It doesn't represent me if you're making some kind of trope. It's like you're not doing the thing you're saying you want to do if you're giving me tropes. And so I definitely understand that what you're saying with meaningful. Yeah.
Similar to Adira, I believe, in Star Trek. It's Adira? Yeah, Adira. And then Rael in Motherland Fort Salem. Me, I'm not part of LGBTQIA. I'm not. But in the story, I'm looking at them and the people that they date, and I'm like, girl, you need to be getting someone better for you. You need a better girl for you, because she ain't no good. And I mean, that's when the representation is good, because like, I don't know, but I know that person, she doing you wrong.
So when people show up as actual human beings, you can relate to them no matter what their orientation or what their situations are. Yeah.
But like, you need someone better for you, and you can still enjoy it as their relationship in general just grows and fosters. And I think that's something that we're still really fighting for, because it's beautiful that my son can see black men kind of being heroes and stuff, but then sometimes you wonder, are they fully realized men, because they don't really, you might see them, they might not be in charge, or they might not be able to have friends, or they might not be able
get paid for working for the Avengers.
Yeah,
they might have propane tanks on their back, and they might be fine with it.
Oh man, I try not to talk about that guy, but Falcon does get beat up a lot, and Falcon, like, we could give him
because he can't fight.
Because he can't fight.
Why isn't he getting paid? Like, I don't understand that.
Like, I feel like he gets all pepper up and
represent a black man that wants to get paid for his work, because that's kind of a standard.
I love Falcon and like Winter Soldier, but that killed me that they were like, and he was struggling for money. Winter Soldier was not.
Yeah.
Like, why? What? You're doing all the same work. What are we doing?
I know, don't get me
Are
wrong.
you Captain America again?
I'm not.
You broke? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, this
working on your own gear.
This actually ties in with what you were saying, because again, it's that representation versus a trope. Falcon being the trope of the put upon heroic character that doesn't get any rewards, because remember, Avengers wasn't his only job. He was doing merc work on the outside, just like Rhodey was.
Right.
But for some reason, Rhodey got a better contract.
Right, Rhodey's good.
Because
Rhodey
Don
ain't
Cheadle's a
looking
better
for
actor
work.
than
He's not
Anthony
trying to
Mackie,
look
but
like he's trying to get him a girl.
yeah,
Rhodey got that military pension.
It's a trick fight because John Ludlum trumps all. But so it really is that kind of a thing. So next question. All right. Within these spaces now, a lot of the stuff that we see now that nerddom is mainstream, okay, with things like Critical Role, Stranger Things, the fact that the comic books that I read in junior high school and you guys read in elementary school are now the primary moneymaker for some of the biggest movie companies in the history of moving pictures. Okay, I mean, I ain't gonna lie.
It's not just that; it's keeping them afloat.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, seriously, because I mean, The Godfather is one of my favorite movies of all time, but it didn't make no in-game money. I mean, adjusted for inflation. People are like, you know what, The Godfather, that's a great. Oh man, there's Captain America, Winter Soldier. Yeah, you get him, Cap. I mean, seriously.
When he said a symbol, we all was like, when he said a symbol, we were done. All of us were like, a symbol.
Yeah.
He was like,
Actually, my teary moment in Endgame actually came when Thor was like, I knew it! When Cap called Mjolnir. I'm like, yeah, he was just being nice, and the one that was directed by the director I've never liked. But hot take aside, so now that it's mainstream, do you find that things, when they become mainstream, tend to become more the domain of the middle class, or is mainstreaming another inadvertent gate to the fiscally disenfranchised because of the laws of supply and demand. Yeah, I know I'm silly, then I dropped this on y'all.
Now we have to be intellectual.
Oh, we hadn't started yet?
Not me.
Oh, okay.
I'm just talking.
I'll start and say, okay. Yes. It has, this is where I see a lot of when you talk about fiscally disenfranchised, you see a lot of gatekeeping around maybe the access of, maybe just the access of the things of the product or the property. So there's the access of like, oh, well, I'm more of a geek than you are because I have this specialized steelbook and hardcover and you just have a t-shirt. So you're nowhere near the geek I am because I have all these things and you have the socks, you know.
What do you mean? You like the Avengers? Name every comic.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you like reading? Name every book. You know, what color socks were Captain Kirk wearing in the original series, season 2, episode 5 at minute 4:31? You mean those guys?
Yes, there's this new gatekeeping because in my view, at first you were like, hey, we weren't allowed to do anything. Like, hey, we were reading comics, people were like, we hate y'all, and y'all ain't allowed. And now everybody's like, cool, we read comics, we watch animated series and stuff, and now it's like, well, if you didn't read as much as I did, then you're not as special as me. It's like, hold up, you wanted everybody to like this thing, right? Well, now everybody likes this thing. It might not be the exact version, maybe they like only the animated series, but you can, at least we can all, I thought, enjoy this stuff. Like, oh, cool, you watched the animated series. Well, I read the book, and then we can at least converse on that. Or, hey, I watched the movie, and you. But no, now it's still more of the, well, that's not the real animated series. The one that's the real animated series is the one I grew up on. And the one that's a cheap replacement. And there's these hyper...
Dubbed anime for life.
There's this hyper-specific critiques.
Well, it's time now.
There are these hyper-specific critiques on the way you geek. And I feel don't really have a lot of merit except for the fact that that's not your flavor.
I don't know if I have a problem with that particular part of it. In the sense of, we've always done that to each other. We've been doing that. I have a problem with it when it starts to exclude, when it starts becoming exclusionary to like, or it starts othering people, like LGBTQ people, or black people, you know, Latinx people, whatever. Like when you use it, you know, it's almost like, it almost becomes a sort of religion thing almost, right? Like, we're acting real religious now, and we're trying to exclude the people that we don't like or we don't care for or we don't or we're othering at the time. When it's used to do that, that sucks. But for the most part, we've been doing that the whole time. Even when it wasn't mainstream, I was like, well, I've read more copies of X-Men than you, so I'm clearly the authority on Colossus.
I heard I was just starting to fight over there. The other side of the table ain't exactly being very vocal. Please.
I mean, the only thing I wanted to bring up for that was, by describing it that way, it feels like gatekeeping is a bit of a paradox. Like you want to flaunt what you know and be superior to other people who kind of like what you want, but they're not liking it enough. So you're pushing people away. You're bragging to people. You're bragging to people you want to brag to people, but you're pushing them away at the same time. So gatekeeping is such a weird paradox of like, why wouldn't you want people to like share information with that you're passionate about instead of trying to flaunt your superiority, quote unquote, that you know more or have experienced it longer for no reason?
Sorry.
This series, this figure right here was only made one time. There's only 100 of them. And guess what? I've got 3.
But that's fun.
But you think you'd be like, hey, oh, you like this? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, but I want to be at the top of it though.
Miss LaStar?
Well, they do say it's very lonely at the top.
It's lonely.
Gotta be the
Jason
man.
has made it clear that he's cool with me. I think we all realize this now. Yes, I agree with everything that's been said. I had like a few different takes on that. Oh, maybe two. I definitely the people using it to feel special. Definitely the people using it to feel to other people. I remember women coming to me or having conversations with women about walking into comic shops and getting geek checked, as I think is the term that we all use for that now.
Bruh.
And I was like, I've never been into that. Like I'm okay with admitting I don't know everything, and I'm happy for you. I get real trolly and condescending with those type of people, so they tend not to like to do it with me. I was like, yay for you. You want a star cookie? What are we doing here? Because it has happened at cons. I'm like, cons I have been on big panels for, and I'll be talking to a random or another creator, and they go to kick check me, and then I have to donkey kick them back. So, yeah, so women don't take it, and all the other groups don't take it. You don't have to know everything to enjoy it, and I'm very excited about sharing anything I'm passionate about. That's how I am. So, never understood that, and then it's what fuels some of the toxicity, though, in our fandom. And so I was like, I forget what it's called when you go into a movie and you review the movie and you dunk it before it even comes out. Then there's the people who are like not even the people who are into it. So you got the hipsters who are like, I was in it before it was cool. And then you have the people who are new to it, don't really know it as well, but then we'll come to you and try to be all preachy about it. So my biggest favorite comic book is The Sandman. I'm huge, that's how I got into comics. Those are the kind of comics I'm into. I am not a big superhero.
Actually, it's called The Sandman.
Yes, I know. The
It was
I'm
the
gonna deal with you
seminal
later.
work of a Southman writer named Neil Gaiman.
Gaiman, right.
except
And that's the
it-
thing.
it's
I
not
Actually pronounced Guyman.
You got it.
He'll tell you that it's Gaiman because he's a writer and it's his name. So, yeah.
Should I wait so they can get on the air? Like, that's not like they're breathing too well. Yeah, and so I like The Sandman a lot. And so they have a new series on Netflix. I thought it was pretty well done. A lot of the switch-ups made a lot of sense to me. And if you're familiar with the work and the artist himself, a lot of that stuff is predictable. Like, that's just how he rolls. And so, like, watching Gaiman, troll people who are claiming to be his fans is, like, the most awesomest thing to me. Like, I love retweeting him. I love reposting everything he says. Because you're not a real fan. I'm not even sure if you're interested in this stuff. You're just here to, like, fight. And your prejudices are on full display when you have problems with this. Because if you know the art, you know the work, and you know the artist, you should already expect everything that appears in the Netflix version of Sandman. You should be ready for it. So I think that is the newest threat that I have observed with things becoming mainstream, is people getting really excited or really into what they think something is, and then coming to the people who've been here and being really preachy, but in a bigoted, hateful way.
Actually, it's an onomatopoeia. Thank you very much.
That reminds me of Lord of the Rings for Amazon. When the trailer came out,
Right.
and I mean, I've seen all of the Lord of the Rings movies, but I'm not super into the Lord of the Rings. I'm
Right.
like, it's way too long, and I'm like, why didn't he just fly him over there? Like, he's not a good friend. But I'm like, you're not helping us, man. But I also know,
We need a story, Michael. Come on.
but I know if it's like, hey man, all right, cool, I brought you this far, check it. This is an evil force. Walk through that. No, like, don't you got birds? Like, let's go. But they put out the trailer for the Amazon thing, and I'm like, oh, it looks kind of cool. Looks good, and I was happy with seeing it.
Right.
Apparently, I was wrong. Because clearly you can't have black people in stuff doing things, And Twitter did not
And
seem,
that's
they did
the
not seem to
saddest
like it.
thing. Like that's it. It's like it's not like I consulted to work. I'm not critiquing whether they can take up that mantle or they're doing a good job or they're being true to the character. I'm here for criticism. I think it makes our art grow and get better. If you're not
Okay.
here for growth, I argue you shouldn't be an artist. But it should be constructive. There should be a rhyme or reason. If you just don't like stuff, as you were saying, it's just because you want to be negative and hateful, then you can take your negative and hateful stuff over there somewhere.
Okay.
But
Is the Lord of the Rings show a prequel?
Yes. Yes,
Oh.
it takes place in the Second Age, and it takes place on the far east of the continent,
Uh-huh.
where the darker people live, and where the wizards Alatar and Palango went. And yes, I'm that
like,
guy.
Like, it'd be one thing if it didn't make sense, but it makes sense, and I don't understand what you're arguing, other than you're just being hateful, and it's showing. Okay, that's all I take that as. It's saying more about you than me or the artwork, and
Okay.
you're a fake friend. You're not even a real fan. It's like fake outrage because you're not a real fan.
All right, so being who I am,
Okay.
all right, and I'm gonna back up a little bit because every time I do this on the show, I know Mike wants to give me 5 across the eyes. Okay, because all right, every other time. So, but no, it's not that. It's I like to look at the completeness of the story. Okay, because how can I put this? I spend a lot of time in geek space. I spend some time in political space, but I'm always talking to people. And one of my biggest philosophies, call it beliefs, is that we will all live in a better world if everyone takes time to learn everyone else's story. Okay? So when I think about these outraged geeks, these outraged people, I have lots of conversations. Lots of conversations. Loads of conversations. Because when Twitter says, it ain't my job to teach you, then back in the deck at gmail.com comes up and questions pop up. So I spend a lot of time talking to people, learning everybody's story. And I know with the new geek gatekeeping, it's something that reminds me of paradigm, okay? A lot of people, like we talked about bullies a little earlier. Well, in that old frame of hurt people, bullies, even Karens, do what they can to get power, not just so that they can hurt other people, or not just so that they can stop being hurt, but they can have revenge on people that have hurt them. That is the paradigm under which they live in. Now, when it comes to the outrage and all that other stuff, what I see are a bunch of people that have always been marginalized, have always been the ones that there was always a reason not to let them sit at the lunch table. Most of the time it was funk, but a good amount of the time it was just they weren't welcome for a reason. So I think a lot of them are afraid that once the stuff gets mainstream and the popular kids start doing it, there'll be no room at the table within the spaces that they occupied before. You know, I know I've talked to a lot of people that have felt marginalized, and then I talk to them about different levels of marginalization, okay, i.e. people of color, women, LGBTQ+, you know, just the whole lot. There is a hierarchy. And a lot of the times it's, well, I grew up with this and now it's changing and I feel like I'm going to be left behind and what I like will not be accessible anymore. Which, not gonna lie, when New 52 hit and DC changed Billy Batson from a good kid to an anxious 21st century teenager, I was mad. Okay, I'm like, leave him alone. We need one good person, just one good person that's not filled with angst, guilt, sadness. Just something like Billy's a good kid who's good for the sake of being good. He's Hufflepuff, you know. Their house words are "be good because," and now they changed him to the angry kid that we saw in the movie to keep up with the kids of today's demographic. So with your guys' experience, especially as my great grandmother used to tell me, keep on living. Well, now that we got some years on us, have you guys seen some of the stuff that I'm seeing in the sense of a lot of this outrage and performative stuff is coming from people who have been hurt and don't know how to deal with it, or just hateful people? Like what would be your guys' assessment on that?
Yeah, we went from intellectual to psychological. No. We go deep on the dark side of the room.
Jason said both.
Both.
Go on. You're a writer. Elaborate, man.
Not a traditional writer. No, I feel I agree with you. I think some people have been hurt and some people want revenge. I mean, it's easy for base people to drum up negativity, like from your base self, rather. So yeah, I think it's both. I think some people, there are, just like Billy Batson had been a person that it was good for good sake, straight Hufflepuff, there are mad Slytherins around here who just like to drum up chaos and hate. And I think those are getting intertwined. Like, I think the people that have been hurt, it's possible some of them can be saved. But the real, just regular, hateful, let me come in this thread and derail it, I don't know about those people, right? So I think it's both.
And it's hard trying to differentiate them too. It is hard because, you just look at the whole thread and you're like, nah, I'm not even getting in this. Like, there's so many, man, and I'm sure the same with this whole panel, there's so many threads that you see and you start to type and you be like, I don't care that much. I don't. I'm gonna just watch it. I'll enjoy it on my own.
Absolutely.
I'll watch it. I'll love it on my own, and I'll be fine. Like you're like, you know what? I'm gonna bring reason to this. You know what? Never mind. Never mind.
So what?
I've done worse. I've literally typed it all up and looked at the essay I've written. I could sold it to a newspaper and then pushed delete.
Hold that space for like a minute.
What I do is I just take that thought to my own page, so it's a safe space, and then I let them come to me, and then I destroy them. No, but I wanted to revenge people. I'm sorry, but no, I mean it's both. It's absolutely both.
And Jason and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, where sometimes when they change a certain character, I'm like, cool, you know what I'm saying? This is great. But then another part of me is like, why'd y'all change this? Because they're going to come out crying about it. And then are we going to have to hear about them crying about it? Just leave it. And I mean, I think it should change, or maybe it shouldn't change, or maybe flip it. It's yours to do. But now that you've changed it, now I got to hear their mouth. And I don't want to hear their mouth about this. So sometimes I'm like, just leave it how it is so they can be happy.
But I feel like that's where the hateful negativity part comes in, because what era we're in. We're in an era where we're some people are attempting to fix things by changing things, and then some people are changing things to make money. I mean, we're in an era where things are changing, whether that's gender, whether that's race, whether your favorite characters might end up being black. Sorry, but
Jason, change is constant.
Exactly.
It's never ending.
Exactly. Okay. It never ends.
But that's an era thing.
But that's my All
right.
It's not an era thing. It is absolutely constant. But what I'm saying is, where you are. Read the room. Why are you so angry about it? Like, what is the issue?
People don't like change. They're comfortable with what they have, and they don't want it to be different, and so they get upset.
But even some of the things they like, because change is constant, has been changed.
Right. When they get into an argument and they're like, my version of something is great, how dare you change it from that version? But then there's an older version that's based on, and then there's a book that thing is based on, and you're like, what are you talking about? It was changed already when you came into it and claimed yourself a fan, but you're not that great of a fan. You didn't even bother to go back and read the book and the movie that was made from that.
LOTR is one of those things. It changed from first to Peter Jackson's version, and now it's flipping a little bit again.
And there's new people who don't know about the original, and they're going after the Peter Jackson version.
I will tell you, the Ralph Bakshi version is timeless. All right, I need my goat singing songs about great adventure.
Oh man,
so like real talk. But all right, so This is, and I had to save this for last, all right? Because this is the most poignant and important question that I have to ask each of you on this panel, all right? This is really, really what we got together for.
Gotta brace myself.
All right? So, in the realm of geek space on the internet in the 21st century, and I'm going to start with you, Miss LaStar. Okay? Where can they find you if they want to contact you and get your work? There we go.
I told you guys that at the beginning. Jason was all scared. I was like, I'm ready. I ain't never scared. You can't scare me. I'll protect you, Jason. It's
I'm
okay.
just cool. That's how
Kimmy's
I
not
talk.
here. I got you. I got you.
I'm cool like that. That's a persona.
But no, you can find me anywhere on the internet at LaStar.net. That's LAStar.net.
Right down the line.
Yeah, for me, all the links are my business social media is at www.theguildhousegames.com. I say that because my Twitch, Instagram, or Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff's a little different. So just I have a Twitch account. I haven't actually done anything. I would love to do some stuff, but I tend to get very nervous.
He does
for the
not
camera.
have time to live stream,
I
but we do a
don't.
lot from his store.
I can talk forever.
Using his internet.
I would love to live stream and just answer questions.
Oh,
But
that
it's
day
hard-
is coming.
But it's hard to do that if you don't have an audience.
That day is coming. Oh yeah, it's coming. All right, Mr. Reeves.
Never scared. Jason Reeves, 133 Art Publishing. At 133 Art on all social media. 133art.com is the hub. Holla back.
E-Bombay.
All right, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok,
What does
podcast.
that spell?
That spells NERDSoul. We do hip hop and geek. Most recently, we had Elixir. She did a performance at Oh My Burger in Gardena. We talked about Motherland Fort Salem yesterday. We'll be talking about Dragon Ball Superhero soon-ish.
Once I answer your messages.
So,
Wow, you're going to be right next to a brother now.
You just leaving him on red?
Yo, got things to do.
But then the rest of this week we'll have some other stuff. I got one of the top fighters from DNF Duel to come on an interview about just being one of the top 5 players in the world right now, at least on the PlayStation side, because they don't have crossplay. And
You embarrassed yourself at Comic-Con on the Street Fighter?
Oh yeah, I played Street Fighter 6 at Comic-Con.
I saw it.
I lost. It wasn't good. But still,
It's
How far did you
embarrassing.
get?
It's embarrassing. I had to
this
film
guy
it.
beat me 0-2. It wasn't pretty, but I am still a very strong Faust player in Guilty Gear Strive. So I held that in high regard. My last statement is I wasn't ready for Street Fighter 6. When it comes out, I will make sure to train. I was caught off guard.
Ain't gonna be no rematch.
I'll make sure that my skills are much, much stronger.
I feel like this is like a press meeting now. Press release. Questions from other journalists.
Mr. Young is a good person, but he must learn manners. God chose me to play Street Fighter against him. God is the teacher, Michael is the student, and I am God's instrument. God's lessons are so beautiful. And I want you guys to give it up for our panel. Give it up to our panel. Thank you guys for being here. I hope the food has been acceptable. And we're going to break down the other stuff, and then we're going to start with some of the game demos. But if you guys were wondering where to get a hold of us, you can find me at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram, also at backinthedeck, or as I like to say, the social media that we all have, even though no one likes it, And you can find me over on TikTok, the TikToks, TikToks. If you are below, if you're actually young enough for that kind of thing to be relevant, at BidP, that is at BIDPY, on TikTok, where you guys can see me do the dance challenges where I dance like Doctor Who doing an impression of a giraffe. And if I get enough Twitch subscribers, I'll actually make that TikTok. So subscribe on twitch.tv/BID_P. Use your Amazon Prime account so it won't cost you no money, but it'll stop Twitch from sending me these Italian guys to my house in ill-fitting suits holding various blunt pieces of wood. So that would actually help a lot. And of course, if you're part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, then join Deckers on the Book, which is the Facebook group. It's a public-ish group full of people like the ones you guys have met here today and that have been on the panel. And I use the band hammer so hard, Thor looks at me going, you need to back off of that hammer. You might get a thing. Just to make sure that I cultivate an open and welcoming community. All right, that's also where I give away a lot of PDFs. So yeah,
just like I was saying, policing the negativity.
Yeah, exactly, policing the negativity. It's like
straight block.
Yeah, it really is. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they cast a black woman as Death. Watch the show, she's amazing. And and by the way, you're a new kid. This is the block. All right, I mean seriously, we just do that whole thing. So thank you guys for joining us, and I am Solar Grey, the Cinematic Sorcerer. And remember, if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, neurodivergence, or your budget, you can look at them and tell them to take that card and put it back in the deck. This is Solar Grey, the Cinematic Sorcerer, coming at you live right now, but you're watching in the future on YouTube because, yeah, that's what you guys are doing. From Bono's Pizzeria in beautiful downtown Long Beach, saying thank you guys, and we will see you Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the dark side of the room.
Peace.